Hi, I'm Jeremy Shaw, creator of clckwrks. Clckwrks is a high-level Haskell framework intended to replace old obsolete technology like WordPress and Drupal. Right now, clckwrks is really only suitable for Haskell programmers, but our long-term goal is to allow end users to install, customize, and use clckwrks with zero programming knowledge. Today, I just want to give you a brief demo of what you can do with clckwrks 0.16. I've already checked out the source, installed all the packages. You can read more about how to do that on the website. If you go to the website and you go to Get Started, it'll show you how to install, get the source code, do all that stuff. So I've done that already. So now we're going to switch over. I'm in the example.org subdirectory in the source code, and I'm just going to build the example. This is just building it as is. I haven't changed anything. I'm just going to ignore that warning because it doesn't seem to cause any trouble. So now I'm going to start the server and switch back to my browser here and load it on up. So here we see this is what it should look like when it first comes up, and it gives us some instructions on what to do next. So the first thing we're going to want to do is create an account for ourselves. So we'll just call this admin, put in our password, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. And we'll create an account. So now the account has been created. I'll give myself a username, the almighty admin, and put in an email, admin@example.org. I'll update this profile. So right now we'll see that there's only really one thing we can do in this console, which is edit your profile information. That's because we are just a plain old user right now. So the next thing we need to do is give ourselves administrator permissions, which it tells us how to do here. So we'll switch back. Can ignore that is secure thing. That's just because I have a debug version of happstack authenticate installed, and that's just telling me that we're not using HTTPS at the moment. So let's open a second shell here. So to use clckwrks CLI, we give it a path to the socket that is listening. That's just a bunch of acid state stuff. We'll skip really what's going on there. The interesting part here is we can now connect to the running server and modify its database. So we can list all the users. We see that there's only one so far. We want that user to be administrator, so we'll add the role administrator. And now if we do user show 1, we see all the information, the almighty admin. We see that he's both an administrator and a normal visitor. So we can quit this now and go back to the web browser. And now if we go back to the admin console, we'll see we have a whole lot more options here. So first thing we're going to want to do, you'll notice our menu bar here doesn't really have anything in it. Actually, let's, so in the default clckwrks example there, one of the plugins that comes pre-installed is just a plugin called Page, and that's used to create pages and posts. So that's for your CMS and blogging type functionality. So let's create a new page here. We'll see there's a page editor. If we wanted to change it to a post, we can do that. We can give it a title, so we'll just call it some example page. We have the option to name the page slug, which is the readable text that shows up in the menu bar that's useful for just giving something more descriptive. Otherwise, all the pages look like /2/3, and it's not meaningful to people or search engines. If you don't put in a slug, it will just automatically generate one from the title, so we'll skip that. Here's a option that says we can highlight Haskell code using HS color. So let's now put in a body. So the body here is going to be done just using traditional Markdown. And there's a lot of references on that if you don't know how to use Markdown, but it's pretty straightforward. So we'll say, here is a code example. We'll underline it, which makes that a heading. And then for the code, we'll say module main, where main, we'll give it a type signature, equals, put string line, clckwrks rules. And then I'll put a little comment here. This is a neat program. So now we can preview this. And there we'll see we got the title, we got our heading, we have some code, it's even syntax highlighted, and here we go. You see neat is modified, or is boldified, emphasized. So we like that, so now we'll say publish, and now the page is published. So another thing we can do is edit our navigation bar, which is the bar that we see at the top of the page. So let's add some links there. We'll go to, so each plugin has the ability to register additional things that can be added to the navigation bar. Right now we only have two plugins, the built-in clock plugin, that's sort of the base thing that provides our initial framework, and then the page plugin. So let's add a link to some example page. And that's a really long title, so let's just call this example. And then we'll add a link to the, add a link to the blog. We can drag and drop to reorder these, but we'll keep the blog last. So we'll do save changes. It tells us they're changed. So now if we go here, we'll see that our navigation menu has been updated. So one of the really nice things about clckwrks is the fact that it can be extended through the use of plugins and themes. So let's say we don't like that particular theme. We can go into our main.h. Actually, for this, we'll just go into our Cabal file and say that instead of the clckwrks theme bootstrap, we want to use clckwrks theme, let's say happstack, which I happen to have installed. And now we can do Cabal configure, Cabal build, and we'll run this again. So now if we switch back to the browser and we reload the page, we'll see that we've got a new theme here. Another thing that we can do, and that was it, we just changed what theme we compiled against and it just works. Another thing we could do is add an example, add a plugin. So right now the only plugin we have is the page plugin, but we could also add the media plugin, which will allow us to upload images to our site. So first we have to import it, then we come down to the init hook section, and we say we actually want to use that, and we go into our Cabal file and say we depend on that. So now if all goes well, so now we should actually have a media plugin. So let's go to the admin console. So we'll note now that over on this section of the screen, we now have a new media section here where we can upload and view our media. So let's upload an image. We'll choose a file such as this one and say upload. So now it's uploaded this photo, which has ID 0. So now we can go back to our page editor, some example page. So now we also have special, each plugin can install preprocessors which allow you to do other things in the markup. So for example, the media preprocessor, we can say, this is the syntax we use, so curly brace media pipe ID equals 0, so it's just insert this image right in the page. So now if we do preview, we see we got an image in our page. We like that, so we'll say save. So now if we click on example, we have both our code and an image. So I think that's all I wanted to demonstrate today. If you poke around the admin console, you'll note there's, for the blog, you can change what the blog is called. Under settings, if you're using Google Analytics, you can actually put in your Google Analytics code and get automatic tracking. There's a bunch more things that we'll add over time, but and I'm apparently using a slightly old version of clckwrks here because there should be a menu bar at the top that's missing. But this is like the 8th time I've recorded this, so I'm not going to go redo it again. If you get the latest source code, you'll find there's actually a nice menu bar at the top, though. So for the future, obviously one of the really neat things that we did here is we were able to switch the theme and integrate a new plugin, and it was all very, very simple. We just had to and for the theme, we had to just change what theme we were compiling against. And for the plugin, we just had to add a few simple lines to import it and then call the initialization function. The direction we're moving towards is that it'll be even easier. We'll have in the admin console, there'll be a theme section, and you'll just be able to go to the theme section and automatically download and install themes into a running server without restarting it. Or you'll be able to go into the plugin gallery and download and install automatically new plugins, load them into the existing server without restarting it. And we actually have the tricky part of this working already, the dynamic loading of the plugins. The part that remains to be done is the more tedious part of actually integrating that in, integrating in the calls to Cabal to actually download, install the packages, and that stuff's all just sort of the tedious, boring work. It can definitely be done. There's nothing mysterious about it. We just have to sit through and pound out the code to do it. But we wanted to sort of work on some of the other more pressing needs at the moment for Haskell users, which is making the admin console nicer, things like that. So there's still a bunch more work that we have lined up. The goal for clckwrks 1.0 is to make clckwrks really nice for people that already know how to use Haskell and who aren't afraid to get in there and type a few import lines or make their own new plugins or do whatever. For 2.0, we want to clean up the theming system and make it really easy for people who don't know Haskell to still be able to create themes. And then for version 3.0, that's where we really want to work on making sure that using the web interface to automatically click and install plugins with and themes with no coding involved or any knowledge of programming whatsoever. That's where we really want to get that all hashed out and put in, a theme store or whatever you want to call it, online theme gallery where you can go and browse and see screenshots and one-click install that stuff. So 3.0 is where we'll actually be able to compete with products like WordPress that are used by everyday users. But for version 1.0, we want to make sure that is something that Haskell users are very excited to use. Right now, this clckwrks is quite usable. In fact, it's what's been hosting both clckwrks.com and happstack.com and a couple other sites. It runs very reliably, so even though it's not everywhere, it's not to the point we'd like it to be in all respects, it's definitely reliable. There's just some wonky things in the interface in a few places and things that could be nicer. So we're going to keep working on cleaning those up and documenting the code and doing all that sort of good stuff. Anyways, if you have questions, you can join our mailing list or write me personally. You can find, of course, more information at clckwrks.com, which is right here. So thank you very much. I hope you enjoyed this, and I hope that you will give clckwrks a shot.